retire, I like to ride around that city, so fortunately, we got lucky, and he accepted our offer, so he started today. He'll be about 2 weeks of training for transitioning, then he's gonna be working the evening watch with Officer Roberts, the 3 to 11 shifts. 2019.
Great, awesome. Well, thank you so much. Good to, yes.
Do we have anywhere that we can put names to faces? Do you have like a staff board or anything? Because when I see the folks, I always wave, but it'd be nice to put names with the faces.
Yes, ma'am, not yet, but I will get those prepared out, sent out to you.
Yes, an email would be great.
Yes, ma'am, we have a little portrait of a flag that we take a picture of. Councilman ready, but I will get those sent out to you on the email as soon as I get those. You added them.
Awesome.
You can always manipulate.
Yeah, yeah.
The shape, there's 2 of the shape similar and there's 2 of the other shapes.
All right, well, great. That's all I had, Bill, unless there was something else that I'm totally forgetting about. That was all. We'll open up the floor to citizen concerns. We only have the ability to receive comments from the floor here at City Hall. So I only see one member of our community, Mr. Anderson. You got anything?
No, I don't have anything. I was just wondering whether you had any, the city council had received any more complaints about the maintenance of the cemetery, but I've been getting a lot of compliments.
I appreciate you bringing that up, and I should have brought that up in my mayor's announcements. I made a special point to drive through, and I've walked through frequently. I drove through again just yesterday, and was telling my wife how pleased I was with how great it looks all around. Looks great. Appreciate the work that Roger Ross's team is doing for that. So thank you for reminding me.
Great.
Yeah, I haven't received any negative comments, and I certainly have personally observed it looks a lot better and more consistently maintained than it ever has.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
I haven't either.
No? Great. If you haven't been over there, take a look. It's really shaping up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, nothing else. We'll move on to item 8, adding remote deposit capture for our United Bank accounts. We discussed this at the work session. I have a motion to move forward with adding remote deposit capture for our United Bank accounts.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
Accept.
Second. Yeah,
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
the request was actually to add additional banking services, not just remote deposit capture.
Okay.
The total we would like to increase it to is $49.95 a month, I believe.
Yeah.
Right, that's the amount of-
discussion we had was to do it all.
Yeah, sorry. So remind us again, we can amend that motion.
So the remote deposit processing is an additional $25 a month, and ACH origination and wire transfers is an additional $10 a month.
So we want remote deposit, ACH, and
wire transfers.
wire transfer.
Which we don't do a lot of wire transfers, but the ACH would definitely move us forward with things like direct deposit and allowing us to debit people's accounts for the power bills and stuff like that.
Okay. Would you mind, Jeff, amending your motion to include those 3 items, remote deposits, ACH, and wire transfers?
Whatever she said, I am.
So
I couldn't hear half what she was saying, so I think I understood.
You want me to go over it again? You want me to come up there?
What she said, Jeff, she was mentioning the remote deposits,
Deposit.
the ACH, which is the sort of bank-to-bank transfer, right?
Automatic bank
And
transfers.
yes, and
Okay.
then the wire transfer.
Just read the highlighted sentence.
Yeah, just those two.
This one and
That
this
one,
one.
that one. Okay, all right.
So if you want to just say so moved,
So moved.
get a second. I'll just restate that. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Next item is outsourcing printing and mailing of utility bills. A motion to move forward with the proposal to outsource our printing and mailing of utility bills.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I request a table of this motion.
I have so you make a motion to table the item? Do I get a second?
Yes.
I second.
Okay, can I get some discussion on why you'd like to table the motion?
Because I haven't been able to get my head around it yet and hadn't had time to talk to Marcia about it, but I'm having a lot of trouble with the idea we're spending $100,000 for a new system, and then we turn around and outsourcing our bread and butter and losing a certain amount of control over that. So, and there's some numbers that I can't make work in my mind, so I'd like to have some time to spend with her in that regard.
Okay, I mean, I do know we discussed it as an important item for relieving some of the
Well,
staffing requirements for our administrative staff. It's a lot of time that they have to spend, folding and stuffing and mailing of.
well, the folding is, we have a folding machine
Yes,
that does the folding. It's not done by hand.
right. It
So-
doesn't put them in an envelope.
And it doesn't appear to me that we're saving that much money. That in this new system should be plugging in the readings from the digital reader that we use on the water meters. It should be able to go right straight into the system and be printed out from that. We got to gather all that information. We got to send that to them. They got to put it in their system. Then they send it back in a PDF format, which I know what that is, and that alone is going to take time to verify it in a PDF format. That's not, stick it in the machine. That was my question last time. Does it plug in our machine and our system verify it? But it has to be manually verified. I have an issue with that. And PDF formats are great, but Adobe created PDF. Adobe also created the e-ink systems used by Amazon, for instance. PDF and e-ink systems are not very compatible. So that's the same company that makes both items, created both items, and is not compatible. So all I'm saying is I need to know there's some more compatibility with the $100,000 system we're getting and why we can't move forward, because we've been talking for several years about doing automatic readings so that it can be plugged into the machine, not handwritten, not hand entered. And with that, it should be a matter of maybe not just pushing a button, but a series of buttons to get it printed out automatically and then folded in the machine. I'm just having a lot of trouble looking at this and getting all the numbers to come into my head.
Marcia,
And why are we carrying the bulk mail to Covington? Why can't we do it at Oxford? I don't know. There may be a reason. I don't know.
they don't do
Oxford
bulk.
doesn't do bulk.
They don't
They
do
don't do bulk here.
Okay.
So, Marcia, just so we understand the scope of what we're talking about, would you mind maybe stepping up to the mic and talking us through again what the scope of services that we are proposing to outsource relative to what we're doing currently in-house? It sounded, Jim, like you maybe were getting, not necessarily comparing the right things or thinking about the same thing. I
Well,
saw those two different things. There's like the
Well, I was just
county-
throwing out some questions that I had overall, not, you just had a discussion about what I wanted to
No,
table.
so I mean, I just want to make sure that we're clear on what we're even just talking about as being proposed for outsourcing.
Okay. So this particular request is a request to outsource the generating of the utility bills, the purchase of the supplies that we currently buy to do those utility bills. We buy pre-printed forms, we buy pre-addressed envelopes, and we buy plain envelopes to put the pre-addressed form and the envelope into. This would eliminate all of those purchases. It would also eliminate, we do have a folding machine, but that folding machine has to be babysat. It jams all the time. We call the vendor to come and work on it probably once every other month. That folding machine that we have is not viable. And once you've completed, if you're lucky, you get through the folding maybe in, I'd say 2 or 3 hours after you've sat there and monitored it to be sure it doesn't jam up and everything. Then you have to go through several bills, there's probably 2 mail trays full of bills. All the Emory bills have to be pulled out because they want them delivered specially in a all together. Some other things have to be done to them. I'm not sure what we would do about Emory if we went down this road, but that's it. Oh, and taking them to the post office, taking them to the Covington post office.
If I may ask, that was kind of my concern about the Emory situation. I've heard a little bit about that. And after looking at this a little closer, I can't quite figure out how they can do this for $260 a month, and our actual cost is $592 a month, which is $432 of that is just postage. So if we spend $432 on postage, they're going to put these together, mail them out, and all for $260 a month. That doesn't make sense to me. When the cost of us, our actual cost, not counting our labor, is $592 a month. And Harris wanted $590 a month to do it, and they're going to do it for $260.
Yeah, it makes sense to me because they have customers all over the United States.
I don't, how many
So,
customers they got? I can't
think-
unless they mail it free.
I think they're gaining efficiencies based on volume.
And the next thing, they require us to put up a 2-month deposit for postage, and if they're not charging us postage, why do we have to put up deposits for postage?
The deposit is refundable whenever you leave.
I understand it's refundable, but why do I have to put up there in the first place? If I'm not being charged for something, why do I have to put up a deposit for it? Now, these are the type of things that just kind of raise a flag to me. I don't know what's going on, but this is, I just don't understand why would I have to pay a deposit for something that I don't.
Well, Harris doesn't require a deposit. I mean, we could go with Harris.
I know they don't, I'm saying.
And pay double.
That was another difference, I'm saying, they don't require a deposit. And these are just some things I just want to make sure that we have a handle on. I don't know what, I mean, it may be okay, but I wonder about that.
Do we use a postage meter here for these bills, or is
I-
that what's?
We've asked for a postage meter in the past, not through the council, but through the previous city manager, and he wouldn't
This
consider
is
it.
what we pay monthly.
But the postage meter is probably why they're so much cheaper, is they're, I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm like you, I don't understand how the postage cost is so different unless they're using a meter, which obviously they are for that volume.
I don't know.
And if the folding machine is not operational, then we can put one in the capital budget. How much can a folding machine cost? Is it, $1,000, $10,000?
Let's go ahead and, if y'all are in agreement to go ahead and table this, and we can talk about it at the work session in more depth. I thought we talked about it quite a bit at our last work session, and so was hoping we could move forward because I'm really wanting to relieve the workload on our staff in any way that we can, so that they can focus on the important things. And we're really just talking about outsourcing printing and mailing of our utility bills. The processing of the billing itself is done by us. We send them the file and they just print it and mail it, and they're able to do it because they're doing it. They have economies of scale. They're using different postage methodology than we can because we're not a commercial mailer. So there are just cost savings in that that are quite significant. So that's why I was in favor of it and felt like we all talked it through quite a bit last time. So I guess I'm a little disappointed that we won't be able to move forward because that means at least another month or two of our staff continuing to have to work through this. And we're about to transition to a new system.
I understand just about all that part. I have no problem with that part, for the processing and all that. I can see where that's a problem. I just have a problem with the figures, to make sure we have the figures right. Is there something we're gonna get charged here that's not on this paper? That's the only thing that kind of bothers me.
Only if we-
Do I have the whole story here?
Yeah, I gave y'all the whole contract.
I mean, we've had the documentation in our hands for at least 2 weeks to, if not more, that you all could have reviewed and looked at. We talked through it quite a bit last month.
Well, what is this new system gonna do for us?
I mean, it has to do more with the, how we are accounting and billing and doing payroll and all. It has nothing, it doesn't have to do with the mechanics of printing our bills and sending them out. Now, what it will be a part of helping us do is to process payments of bills through means that we haven't been able to, and to provide more flexibility in how people pay, including the ability to do budget billing, which we haven't been able to do. So it's more about the processes with billing and payroll and accounting. This is strictly about the printing and mailing of the bills, the utility bills themselves. Am I correct?
Yeah, we'll also be able to save customer applications directly in the software, save accounts payable documents directly in the software, so you can look at the whole picture at one time when you're pulling up an account or, a checking account or a customer account or whatever. We'll be able to do work orders on cell phones between us and Jody's guys. Give you an example, right now, we can only print 1 year at a time and one account at a time for accounts payable data. I got a Bill forwarded me an open records request this morning, and it took me 2 hours to fulfill it just because I had to spend that time running a report for every fiscal year and for 6 different accounts that we pay APs from. This new software will give us multiple years at one time, and I should be able to do a report like that within 15 minutes.
But importantly, that is a separate issue and system than from what we're discussing, which is just after we've processed our utility bills, this service will print them, and that will mail them at a cost of more than half of what we are, or less than half, sorry, than we are paying, than it's costing us currently. Any further discussion? We can vote on the motion to table the item. Okay, all in favor of tabling the item, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay. Let me do a roll call vote so we know we can record. George Holt,
Yay?
yay? Nay. Nay. I say nay.
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 Yay.
Okay, so the nays, we have 2 yays and 4, 5 yays, or, is that right?
Nays.
2 yays, 4 nays, 5 nays. So the nays have it. So we will not table the item. We will bring a motion. Now I call for a motion to approve for the outsourcing of printing and mailing of our utilities bills.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
Nay.
You have same 2 nays and 5 yays, if I heard correctly. Okay. The resolution, or the motion passes. Thank you. I just wanted to, on the item, sorry. We are, I'm sorry, the INCO is who we were,
Okay.
The-
I didn't know if you were asking for a separate.
that's who was being,
Yes, considered.
sorry, was there any confusion about that? We're talking about INCO, I said half of what we're currently paying.
I just was, I think,
592.
expecting a specific motion to accept ENCO's bid for the utility.
We can go through it again
That's
if there's
that's
any
okay.
confusion.
If it's clear in the record, that's all I care about.
I want to make sure y'all are clear on your vote, that
Yeah.
we were voting to approve INCO utility services. Anybody have any, looks like everyone who voted
Okay,
in favor.
that's good.
Understood, that's what we were approving. So let the meeting minutes reflect that, Marcia. Okay. Next item is just really a quick opportunity for discussion with respect to the calendar for the budget. We actually have to have a certain amount of time to post it in the paper that we're going to adopt. So we're going to have a called meeting before our work session, and our work session will need to be the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, because the 20th is the federal celebration of Juneteenth, which we adopted as a holiday. It's a holiday day. And then the 21st is the runoff date, so we'll be having an election here in City Hall. So we'll have to do our meeting at here at 6:30 on the 22nd. And at that time, we will go ahead, we'll start with a called meeting to adopt the budget as presented, and then we will move into our work session. So that just, but if there were any, at this point, we talked about it quite a bit before. Just want to make sure everyone's comfortable and clear on the proposed fiscal year 2023 operating and capital budgets for us to then adopt at the call meeting on June 22nd.
Mayor, I have a few concerns with this on our budget, if I can approach and maybe look at it. I don't know if this is the appropriate session for it or appropriate time.
It probably doesn't get any more appropriate, because once we are sort of good to go, we're not going to look back on the budget until we're into operations.
And that's what I'm concerned with. I'm just going to bring this up here because it's a little easier for me to see on my eyes. Come to the
Is it
microphone.
with the operating or capital budget?
This is the operating budget of 20, this is on the Excel spreadsheet.
Okay. Hold on one second, let's make sure we can bring the operating budget.
Under police?
That's correct, under the police.
You said the operating budget?
Yes, sir.
Not the capital budget? You have the capital budget pulled up, Marcia.
I do.
This is regular, this one,
Huh?
this one says regular.
This
Do
is,
you want capital or?
he wants the operational budget.
Yeah, I'm under the operational budget
Oh,
of
I'm
the
sorry.
Excel
I
sheet.
could swear I was looking at the,
You hands up, man.
sorry, my bad.
That's the capital, we need to go back, please, Marshall.
Okay, yes,
There we go.
my apologies. I was, for some reason, looking at it in my head. I was thinking it was with the police department, yes.
Mine is a little bit different from this, but I would like to, be able to change a little bit on this police department budget, because I don't see a lot of the items that I need to be able to pay for in an operating budget. And we've kind of talked about it a little bit. There's an increase in the tech courtware, which is the program that we do utilize for our police reporting, our staffs, and our in-car reports that we use. So I'm good with that. However, what we don't have on this budget is the annual contract for what is our body camera. So we have to pay a licensing fee, and we have to pay a storage fee for those body cameras, the new body cameras that we have. So it's kind of hard to determine where that comes from.
Bill, correct me if I'm wrong, but I have this recollection, we talked about that, and there was not a perfect line item, but I think we did include them under vehicle and equipment repairs and maintenance. I think it was a maintenance contract for the body cameras, because it really wasn't, it wasn't like small equipment under 5,000.
Right.
It was, and that was just, that's where I believe we put it. There's 15,000 there. It wouldn't make sense to otherwise be, correct? Yeah, 15.5 up from 4,000. We were trying to account for that body camera contract
We could
there.
also add a line item for contracts if we wanted to and separate it out.
I'm saying that's where I understood we put that body camera contract there from a budgetary standpoint.
So I guess my confusion comes into play to where it just occurred recently, we had to put another vehicle in the shop. So every vehicle has now had to be repaired with the front end and the rack and pinion. It's all electronic, so it's very difficult. It would be nice if you could just put a front end alignment like the old cars, but it's expensive and it's a part piece. And the budget was running out of money. It was actually a negative for the vehicles. If it's acceptable and preferable, I would prefer just to have a set budget for the police department that says this is how much for your vehicle repairs, this is how much you have to pay for your body camera footage, your storage. This is what you have for your education. This is what you have for your supplies and materials. And when I look at supplies and materials, I'm looking at, this is the materials for the police department. I need papers. I need printer paper for the vehicles. I need whatever we need to, office supply is what I see that as. So it's kind of just a little bit confusing when I see my budget and I don't see the numbers in there.
Yeah,
Because if I'm sitting here and I'm debating, well, did we spend $3,000 to get the front end fixed on this car, or do we just kind of go out on a whim and risk it and hope that nothing happens while we're driving, or we don't hit some citizen because we're losing control of the car?
and what was the, again, the amount for the body camera, contract?
So the annual contract increased, it's now $3,500 for the licensing fee, the warranty fees, and the storage fee for the body camera.
Okay.
And we are in the process of trying to look at this new contract for the TASER. There's also a fee for that.
Yeah.
It's also going to be the automatic camera that's going to turn your camera on. If you deploy that TASER, you're going to know what's happening. Same thing with the firearms. You draw the firearm, the camera is activated, there's no pushing of the button, so we know. We need to know that as a city, to know when an officer is pulling their firearm and what's the repercussions of it. We have to be able to control our narrative. We have to put our narrative out there. We are responsible to the citizens. We have to be able to say, this is what really happened, instead of waiting 6 months or 8 months for people to have an answer. So I'd like to be able to see some line items in here, because I just really don't frankly know what I got in my budget at times.
Yeah. Is that problematic at all? Can we just change the line items to have that clarity?
Yeah, we can break it out more.
'Cause
That's not-
it's my understanding that everything that had been discussed was incorporated, just maybe it was an imperfect fit, right? And not clear to you, and it needs to be clear to you. It needs to be clear, probably also to your average citizen who's looking at it. So let's amend the line items and make sure you got them out, send it to you.
Yes, sir, I'd like to amend the line items. I'd like to take some things out of the budget that doesn't necessarily apply to the police department. Subpoena fees, I think that's a court part of the purchase. That needs to be supplied by the court itself. Goes into their budget. The training funds payable, if you look at that, you're like, man, the police department got $25,000 for training. We don't have $25,000 for training, but that increases my budget. So in turn, you look at the numbers, you're like, well, you got so much money in here for your training. Well, I don't have $25,000 for training. That would be wonderful if we had $25,000.
What's the 18,000 that we've already used this year?
That's what the courts-
Remind us what that
So that,
training funds payable actually is.
from my understanding, that is the fees that we have to pay to the state. You have to pay a certain fee for victim witness advocates. This comes out, all of that $25,000 is a court fee. All of that comes out of a court budget, not a police department budget. We enforce the laws, but we don't pay for the fees. We don't get to decide how much a fee is, who should pay what. If we do that, then we're in the wrong side of the business, because that's bad business.
I was gonna recommend moving those two things to court also. The training funds payable is, the surcharges on top of the fines that people have to pay when they are paying for their citations.
So
So it comes in revenue, and goes right back out.
is there any problem with the fact that that's where that's been recorded for the last, probably since 2007, as far back as I'm looking at? I mean, it's been there a while. Would it be an issue at all with just making that change? Because it makes sense to make that change. I just want to make sure it's, if we're looking back, that we know that it got moved and we don't have to go back and
Well,
move it in the past all back to that.
without getting too technical, the chart of accounts that the state puts out, we're not in compliance with it anyway. We're gonna have to update our whole chart of accounts. And I was gonna do that with the new system.
Okay.
So there's gonna be a number of accounts that don't match going back because things have changed since the accounts were created. And I did check with Charles Hall about moving the accounts that Mark is talking about. He didn't see any problem with it, other than us keeping in mind that the account would be different in past years.
So what I've heard, is a couple of things specifically. One is breaking out the vehicle costs as a separate line item from your contract for the camera and the taser. Have those individually called out, the taser and the body cameras called out as separate contract line items. And then we would move what's called the courtware software, that we move that to the court budget. Is that right?
No, sir. The
That's
courtware
fine.
needs to stay where it's at because there's,
Oh, I'm sorry, subpoena fee, my bad.
yeah,
The subpoena fees and the training funds payable.
yes, sir. I prefer to work on a zero-based budget. See, we got $10,000 for the vehicles. My budget starts to run over the $10,000 for the vehicles. Well, I need to be able to come to you and explain why I need to have money and for these vehicles. I think if I have the budget, that's going to be more effective for us. And it's going to make us be more responsible and answerable to you. As was stated prior, that if we have a budget, why do we keep asking to increase the budget if we set the budget? And I know things happen, I understand. I mean, something could happen and the car's crashed, or you got to put that money into it. However, it's just kind of difficult for me, and it's troubling to me to look at the budget, and I'm like, man, I've got this much money here, and I've got this much money here, when in actuality, I don't have that much money. Without going too further into it, a lot of times the number I see is not actually the number I have, if that makes sense. And I know there's a delay. There's quite a bit of a delay in there. I just want to make sure that I'm responsible and that you're seeing that this money is budgeted the way it should be. And when you look at my budget, like, well, you got $25,000, move it over there and use it. And I don't have $25,000. That's fees that got to be paid. So I would like to see those items moved out into a budget item itself. Vehicle repairs, small supplies and materials. Sometimes we have to use from the supplies and materials to buy the repair items for the vehicle. Knock on wood, those front ends will last now because they're all new and they're expensive. It's not something that could be avoided. It just happens. We all have vehicles. We know how they break. So I would like to see that changed. I would like to see a more of a line item number, just to know what exactly we got. I mean, if I'm reporting to you how many gallons I purchased, each car gets put in a month, I want to see that number start to decrease per month. So we're, hey, we got a lot of gas here, or we're using too much gas, we need to be able to accommodate where all this gas is going. Right now, we take a lock, and we unlock the lock in the gas pump, we put it in a car, and we leave. Honor system, I guess you could say. Oh, I just would like to see it detailed out a little bit more. Some more line items on there, to where we know exactly what we have, and how to go forward with that. That's my request for the budget to be changed to operating budget.
Well, these changes affect, taking away the $25,000 will definitely be a big chunk. But outside of that, is there any other massaging that has to be done in your department to keep the numbers so in line with what we have now?
No, sir. I mean, I do see where we are here. Like I said, I think just moving that out of the budget, the training funds payable, and I believe taking the subpoena fee out, that's a very minimal amount. Usually that just costs putting it in the mail, sending an email to an officer, sometimes to a citizen, but I don't see a need for the $25,000. I've been looking at the phone fees, and I'm trying to come up with the numbers for that. I'm trying to make sure that is correct. And I just think it's just going to be more efficient. I mean, a lot of this equipment is expensive to operate, and you have to be able to update that equipment to make sure it's there, but I don't want to see something that I don't have. But the rest of the numbers are pretty fair. It's just a matter of moving.
So you don't believe that the bottom line figure will be impacted beyond moving the subpoena fees and the training funds payable out of the budget, that it's more about breaking out the details on the two service contracts for the tasers body cameras, and then breaking out vehicle maintenance from equipment maintenance.
Yes, sir. I mean, so just to give you an idea, we do have to go and have the radars in the vehicles certified every year. The handheld LiDARs, they have to be recertified. So that's, you know, the maintenance of the equipment, vehicle equipment and repair. So if we have the radars in the car, that's part of that repair there. Video cameras in the car, that should all be set aside for that. But I shouldn't put equipment repairs for the plumbing in the department, or repairs of the copier machine shouldn't come out of the vehicle maintenance repairs. Just seems like it needs to be a set alone. I mean, when you start seeing a negative number, well, what are you going to do? You're going to buy, you know, 4 tires for that car, or you're going to risk it and just drive around on the bad tires.
Okay.
Actually, the 15,005 for vehicle equipment and repair and maintenance, when you said that number is yea or nay, I'm trying to figure out, what is that number sufficient?
Yes, sir, just to be on the safe side. So we had $10,000, was it last year's budget in there? $10,000, we're over that. We're negative in that account because of the 10,000. So we felt that if we just added a little more cushion, if the front end goes out on one of these vehicles, again, should be under warranty. However, like the rear ends are just almost as expensive on these cars. That's just a little more cushion for the vehicles now that we have the 4 vehicles operating. We do have the new vehicle that we have that would have a difficult time of getting it outfitted.
I think he's asking though, if you break out what you need for the taser and the cameras from the 15,571, will you still have enough for the cars? Is that?
Well, the proposed budgetary contract I have for the tasers is right at $3,500 a year as well. And I broke the numbers down, so in order to carry this taser, I think it's a necessary tool for the officers to have. You got to requalify or recertify with that each year. So it's broken down as far as they're going to provide the cartridges, they're going to provide this. Comes out just a little bit cheaper, but we may need to add for the contract services. Is that?
Actually, it looks like we ought to just have vehicle repair and maintenance
Yes, sir.
by itself.
Yeah,
That
that's what I
really
understood.
involves what's happening with that vehicle itself, not the taser inside or on you, or not anything else. That's on the equipment.
Under the vehicle, yes, sir.
Because that way you can kind of budget as to whether you can make this repair or not. Or you can come back to us and say, yeah, we got to have this repair, and then we can add more to the budget if that's the case.
That's correct. That's my request, yes, sir. Just to have those separated out so we're
Right.
not having to use funds from the supplies and materials. So if we needed to purchase a filing cabinet as a supply for your office supply. But yes, sir, that's exactly what my request is, to make sure that we have each item listed out to where it goes into a zero.
Chief, do you have each one of the cars broken down? On the budget, it's all lumped together, and I think that's one of the issues, isn't that right? Everything lumped together?
Under the vehicle repairs, so the vehicles have we have each car listed, we have files for those, yes, we do. However, as we go forward, sometimes the money is used from separate funds to pay for this fund, where it's easier, to me, it's easier if I have this much money from a vehicle, and I come up and say, you know, I had this much money, however, the transmission tore up in this vehicle or it's broken, needs to be replaced.
Well, that's where I was headed, because this is the first place I've ever been that they couldn't tell you what it costs per mile to operate any given vehicle. And that would be, as that cost per mile climbs, that's the time to replace the vehicle, not necessarily age or that sort of thing.
Yes, sir,
I mean, it's part of the criteria, but it
I would
could
say
be.
in the last couple of years, we've gotten that data together, so we could tell you how much repair and maintenance has been done on each vehicle, and how many miles those have been traveled, therefore we can tell you the
And it has gas and oil and all that in it.
cost per mile for each vehicle. We have that data.
yes, we do.
Okay, I was just wondering.
I think that was presented with Chief Harvey regarding the purchase of this new vehicle that we have now, regarding the data, how much it is per mile, the idle hours, the parked hours. And a lot of it is just due to age of the vehicle. If it drives, it drives, you know, the vehicles aren't going that fast. But unfortunately, they're still operating. It's a stopping and go and stopping and go and stopping and go. And when you have to replace rotors, they get a little bit high. But this electronic steering, the whole front end of them cars, that's expensive.
Yeah, there's nothing cheap about any of them anymore.
The bad part, if the gas keeps going up, I don't know.
The day of the shade tree is long gone.
They still have them, but you don't wanna. You can still find a good shade tree.
Mr.
every
Mayor,
It's like,
getting back to,
yeah.
he wants to pull out 3,500 out of the 15,500, so is that 12,500 going to be enough for him to do repairs? Do we have to increase it by 3,500?
There's the 3,500 for the tasers and about the same amount for the body camera. Is that, I forget, there are two different amounts that are gonna come out of what's currently under vehicle and
Yes, but
equipment.
that's going to lower that.
Which does lower that amount. Now, we just spent a bunch on maintenance and repair, on repairs.
It's not $95,000 worth of ridiculous, but it's ridiculous.
I would prefer to leave that 15, and this is where we have to change the budget just a little bit to ensure that we have those contract services paid for. We haven't signed a contract or presented the contract yet for the TASER. I did receive a proposal for budgetary purposes. That still has to be presented for your approval prior to the contract is signed. The body cameras was an add-on to the previous contract that was signed.
Right.
And then we just upgraded the equipment, essentially is what we're doing. But I don't know that it seems to me it would make more sense just to keep the amount that we have in there for the vehicles, for just in case. Because right now, we're negative.
And then add a new line item for the.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So we're going to be
Well,
changing.
So
I mean,
he needs more money.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, the number for vehicle maintenance, I mean, we obviously, based on historical
Correct.
cost of maintenance and repair, but we had some kind of, I don't know, maybe unprecedented that we had to have a number of major repairs done on the vehicles.
Sure.
Hopefully, we won't have the same kind of year in the FY 2023 year. But if we do keep that number there, then we're going to have to, make amendment to the budget overall because we've now added. But I'm not against it. I'm just want everybody to be clear that now all the numbers don't balance out. We gotta
Okay,
make sure
$6,000.
that we know where we're gonna pay for that additional $10,000 or $7,000 or $8,000 for the
And that's with the,
cameras and the,
assuming that the TASER contract is approved and passed, but we haven't presented that yet. We have a budgetary
Yeah,
proposal.
I think it's a good assumption that we need to put in there as.
Do you know the ballpark for the TASER figure, the budget number?
He said about 35.
You have that.
Well, I thought that was the,
He said it was the same.
3570,
what was the same?
$3,570.94.
That's on
Is
top
it
of the
estimated?
other- So you're talking about around like 8,000 would probably be enough.
Yes, sir, between that amount, and so that includes the warranty. So if let's say these new body cameras, with the warranty we have, say we drop it, falls off, it gets torn off in a scuffle or whatever, and it gets ran over, it's crushed. We call them, they send us a new camera. We don't have any questions to ask on that. That's the same thing with the TASER maintenance fees. The problem is that now that we have these vehicles running, they're gonna get more wear and tear on them. They're really pretty good shape for the age of them and the mileage. We have my vehicle's at almost 100,000 miles, but it's still running well. And we need to be able to go into one of those cars and start it if the other one goes to the shop. So if we got one that's down for 4 or 5 days, we need to have a vehicle that we can turn the key on. So we would keep that in reserve. That's operational, that can be a fully functioning police car. Excuse me. We may need to add something to the budget on that if we get approved for the TASER. The body camera, you've already approved that contract, we signed it, it's good to go. The new equipment is here, we're in the process of getting it updated. So if we get approved for this new TASER system, that would be a little bit more of an increase. Axon is a great company. They're a blessing and also a devil, I guess you could say. expensive, but we gotta have the necessary tools to do the job. You know, I hope we never have to use those, but we need to be prepared if we do. So we may have to increase a bit, but we're gonna take out that 25,000. So the bottom line is not gonna increase. Some of the items that are in the police budget do not apply to a police department, I guess you could say.
So we take the 25,000 out, we're gonna need $8,000 more into his account. So now we're down to 17,000.
We're not taking it out, we're moving it to,
We're moving it up,
court.
but do we need 25,000 up there?
It's just expenditures where it's been.
I'm trying to remember the historical amount on that fee.
So if it's my understanding, and you may know more about, you probably do know more about this, if you write more citations, you have to pay for each, you have to pay that fee, each citation to the state for
Right.
set different funds.
Right, but we collected on the other side. and
Right.
Well, I was just trying to make the thing clear, we didn't have to change the budget at this time, but evidently, we just need to change the budget $8,000 and the
I
police
think
department.
that's my
move forward.
understanding, is we need to break out the initial line items, and that will result in a additional, about $8,000. We'll put the specifics in there, get that back out to you all ASAP, so that y'all can look at it, because we don't have time we gotta get it right and go ahead and adopt this thing at the June meeting, so we can have a budget July 1. And so we need to just get those adjustments made and back out to y'all to review before the meeting, the June 22nd meeting. So yeah, if there are any other questions about what we're talking about, that's my understanding, is we're amending and you'll work with Bill, make sure we get those, and Marcia, to get those line items
I've actually already started on
defined,
that.
and the numbers from the quotes you got in the budget. We'll move those where the subpoena fees and the training fees payable, and then we will find where we need to find the other $8,000.
So
May I ask, the 25,000 we're talking about, what was it in the budget last year?
What was it in the budget, Mitch? It went away, can you bring this
That's
back?
under the police department.
Last year was on the police department.
It's always been under the
How
police.
much of it did we use?
$25,071 was done, and 21 is the actuals.
That's what we actually spent.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay, I thought I was wondering, was that?
It's been in there, I know I keep a running record from 2005 of all of our expenditures. It's been in the budget for quite some time.
It always come out to 25.
It's always been, well, it's been fairly predictable, I think. I don't know.
And now, Ms. Holt, with that, so if you write a citation, that's part of your court fees.
Yeah, but that means your citation fees income should come up, so it should almost not necessarily offset itself, but the more citation you write, the higher your fee, so
That's
the
correct.
more income you get
That's
from
something.
citation.
Yeah, it's a wash. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
it
not an
should
actual.
offset.
There it is.
Yeah.
Whoop.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
that's not costing us additional money. What's costing additional money is equipping our police force with the tasers and the body cameras and the
Now
associated
you're going off.
support service for those, so that they can, that we've equipped them well.
Now you got
That's
it
the
off.
additional 8,000.
Right.
And we've already approved half of that with
And
the
everything in here is
body
loose.
camera contract amendment. We just have
Somebody took it all apart and then put it back together and didn't do it right.
the tasers.
So we go back somewhere and find that.
Yeah, so we just gotta find.
Well, let's
additional-
get
Let me
up
just
there
add
and
this,
bring
and
some
Tricia may be
tools and
familiar with this, I'm not sure.
take
However,
it.
when
There's nothing wrong with it.
you
it's
purchase
just
this
connections
TASER
are
product or this Axon
poor. I
TASER
don't think
product,
I may be wrong.
as long as you are operating that tool
Players are the
in the
wonders.
guidelines of what they train you
So the
on,
players are the wonders sometimes.
deploy
Well,
it,
it's gotta be
if you
little
have
so you can
a
get
court
to it
case,
and-
they do send their representation. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that. Mr.
Neither
Chairman, or
knows.
not. They do represent you and your entity, as long as you are doing the proper training
Mhm.
and you're using the tool properly. If that makes. I just don't want us to be in that predicament where the Georgia Tech police officers, they didn't have that tool,
Yeah.
and unfortunately they had to do a deadly use of force. The tools we have now are obsolete, So they won't even train us on it. We buy the cartridge from a third party. Which, that's kind of nice.
Yeah, so I mean, I see it in the support from the council, and we just need to make those amendments to the budget and be able to bring the budget for approval on the 22nd. But we'll get the amended operating budget to you all this week for you all to review. So, anything else, Chief?
I believe that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from anybody? Okay. Next item, selection of our July 4th parade grand marshal.
Mr. Mayor, I wish to move that we appoint Jerry Roseberry as our grand marshal for 22.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Yes, sir.
I don't have any problem with that. Jerry certainly has served the city well, but the committee, the appointed committee, would very much like to have a special honor to John Burson, because he's 99 years old. I was born in 1942, so he's 19 years older than I am. There's not many living World War II vets, and he has been a fixture in Oxford for most of his adult life, if not all of it. If there's anyone on the council, Lieutenant Westmoreland
Yes.
has found a restored World War II Jeep that the guy will bring up here at his own expense to transport John in. But I would love for there to be a special sign on the side of the Jeep, denoting for John and maybe Miss Ruth as well.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we have Jerry as the grand marshal and have a special honor for John Burson
Yeah.
in addition?
So, yeah, that's what I'd like to see, so they could both be honored, because Jared definitely should be honored, but so should John.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And,
I was stepping to something like that.
yeah,
Well, let's go ahead and carry through the motion on Jerry as the grand marshal, and then call for another motion on the honor, on the, I don't know, what we.
John Burson, we'll just have to make up a
So
title
what was
and make it sound good.
Special honor.
Yeah, special World War II veteran honor for distinguished veteran.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah,
good, that
distinguished
would be
veteran.
good.
Okay, so all in favor of Jerry Roseberry as the grand marshal? All opposed? Okay, and then a motion, Jim, you want to make that motion?
I make a motion that we do a special honor for John Burson as a World War II veteran.
Distinguished veteran. Okay, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Awesome. Love it, love it. Really excited about all the work you all have been doing on that. Thank you so much. Next is invoices, but I don't know that we can show them. If you've got them all in your packet, you should have been able to review. Anybody have any questions on the invoices that you can recall? And obviously, if you
I
have
have a
questions.
printout if anyone.
Yeah, and if you have questions on these at any point in time, please don't hesitate ever to reach out to Marcia and Bill, and they're happy to talk through it with you.
Any questions? Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, you have any questions? Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. I just have another thing.
I don't think they're throwing the money around.
I got it.
Put a tree down, the ones that have extra trees.
She has one.
Did everybody see it that needed to?
Right.
Yes.
Well, unless there's anything else, we can, I don't believe we need to go into executive session, Bill. I don't believe we had anything on that. So with that, I'll call for a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Second.
Oh, what?
No, you didn't go to the.
There was an amended agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, God. I didn't amend my personal copy.
And
My
that's-
apologies, my apologies.
And that's my problem, Hal.
It's not, because you signaled me and we didn't, adjourn.
I saw that deer in the headlight look.
It took me a second.
Yeah.
Age. All right, so the next item is Councilman Wyndham's request to discuss a resolution. I'll pass it to you, Councilman Wyndham, to discussing.
Thank you. I sent all of you a letter, a copy of the letter that's posted in the covers of news and open letter. I hope everyone had a chance to read it. The last paragraph says, I want to know where's the outrage for the massacre of all these 169 children since Columbine. 169 babies. Outrage is missing from churches, media, sports figures, police officials, elected officials, and that we can correct by making a resolution to the governor, state legislature, and our senators and representatives in Washington. I would like to have by June the 22nd, a worded resolution to that effect. It just kills me. I just want to sit down and cry sometimes. My grandchildren have to participate in active shooter training. We're talking about babies going to school. The worst thing I had to deal with was a bully on the playground. Now, granted, I met them all, but nothing like this. This is not even real. And I grew up, there was guns in every house. Every house had a gun, at least one. Ma'am?
In every truck?
Yeah, in every truck, exactly. But we didn't go around killing babies. We didn't go around massacring innocent babies. And I just would like to see some sort of rational restrictions on these automatic weapons of war and high-capacity magazines. So if the mayor would assign some of us to write up a document to be discussed on the 22nd, I'd really appreciate it.
The other comments, or
I agree wholeheartedly.
do we have folks that would be willing to serve on a committee to draft up a proposed resolution? We can distribute and share. I think addressing at a minimum those provisions that Councilwoman has proposed, assault rifle ban and large capacity magazines.
I don't mind doing it, but I want it
Yeah.
to be participatory
No, I
as
think
many
we want to have
councils.
a few folks to,
I don't have a problem signing on it.
would you be on there as well? Yeah. Anybody else?
I'd like to be on it.
Okay. Great. Well, it goes without saying, anybody who wants to contribute, please do.
Yeah.
But I'll ask the three of you, Councilman Wyndham, Holt, and Waring, to serve as the core of that committee to draft it up and get it out to let folks take a look at that, and let's bring that forward as part of our call meeting on June 22nd.
If any of you have a point you want made, let one of us know.
It does seem to make sense that the more specific we're willing to be about what call to action we have for those who we feel represent us, the better. So just be mindful of that, I guess, as if there's specific, I mean, we hear politicians in Washington often talk about common sense rules. Let's define what at this stage today, what is common sense, right? Common sense, not equipping people with, again, weapons of war.
What does it take? What does it take to sit down and have a rational conversation about stopping the massacre of children? And it's bad enough to massacre adults, but children, really? And I don't know where are all the people? And I'm so proud of this council to be part of that, that's willing to stand up and be counted and saying enough is enough. Enough is more than enough. And I appreciate each and every one of you for backing that. Thank you.
Councilman, can I just comment on that for a moment?
No.
I think that's wonderful. I think that's great. I think it would be a good outrage if we as a city maybe would just put forth some monies to educate our citizens of what these dangerous weapons are. I agree. I mean, wholeheartedly, I may not be the most, I might take a little flack this from some other police chiefs, but I don't think you should be 18 and go buy that rifle in the store. You gotta be 21 to buy a handgun, you need to buy it.
Excuse me, since you said that you may take some flack from some other chiefs, are you telling me some chiefs are not in favor of taking an automatic war weapon off? I would be afraid, if I was a police officer, I'd be afraid myself because I'm outgunned.
That's the game has changed a lot, it has, and it's, majority of the time, these weapons are semi-automatic, and usually you only purchase a fully automatic if you have if it's a SWAT team, a police department, or if you have a federal firearms license, you go through a process to receive that weapon. I don't think you need it, that's just my opinion, that's my personal opinion. A handgun or a rifle, you want to go be a deer hunter of that. But I think it would be good if we as a city decided we're going to put some outrage into it. We're going to take the time to educate our citizens to say, hey, we have a gun safety class. If you're interested in the using of a firearm, come to this class. I mean, I don't think it's too much to ask the citizens of this state to say, if you're going to go get a firearm, you need to take a safety class. If you're going to go hunt a deer, you got to take a hunter safety course, 8 years. I mean, for a year, no matter how old you are. I'm 52. If I wanted to, I have a license, but at this point in my life, if I chose to go be a hunter of any type of animal in this state, I'd have to go to a class, a hunter safety class, which teaches the firearm safety. But I think to go along with your proposal, Councilman, is that we do put forth some type of monies where we can educate. We can hold some type of formal classes to educate the citizens of Oxford and educate the children.
So I think that's a fantastic idea. I know that the park system has got a gun safety class, and it's always booked.
Yes.
It's always full. It's really hard to get in there, so.
It's always full, and I think it would be a good gesture. I mean, you have
Yes,
myself, Lieutenant Westmoreland, Tony Mancini, the new officer on board, every one of our state certified firearms instructors. So we have to go through the state of Georgia to say, yes, you have the authority to teach police officers how to use them. Now, we go through training ourselves annually. We have to do use of force, deadly force, use of force training, de-escalation training. So I would just motion that we put forth some money, kind of like we talk about with the bike patrol, getting into the community. We could put forth that money to let them see, hey, okay, we're going to host this class. It's free for you, but we're going to put forth the monies to do it. I don't know exactly what the number would be, but I think that would go along with your.
I do not disagree with that, but this resolution is separate from that.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay.
There's
And by the way, I object to militarizing the police. We should not ask that of you.
It's sad, and it's, you know, when I came out of the police academy, the guys had what we call there's a Lorson 380 or a Brico 380, it fit in your pocket. But it's not that way anymore. If I had this video, we could recapture this video, you would be appalled at a homicide that I had to work. It was
I worked in a hospital. I don't need to be appalled.
I'm just talking about how you would see the general public.
I worked in a military hospital.
It was a justified homicide in DeKalb, but it was a sad situation because the guy's standing there with an AR-15, or I'm sorry, an AK-47 pistol. People just walk by like it's nobody's business, and he ended up shooting another man who drew the weapon on him. But I agree, that's no place, and that we are, you know, you do have to be concerned with that. The game has changed so much now that it's not what it used to be.
Well, in all fairness, when they enacted the law allowing open carry without a license, I've heard of some dumb things, but boy, that takes the cake. I just could not believe it. But anyway, thank you. I agree with you.
Thank you.
Great suggestion.
Thank all of you. I appreciate it. I really do. This means a lot to me personally. It just,
Me too. I agree with you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that forward. Look forward to seeing that resolution and getting that drafted up for our June 22nd meeting.
Thank you. That's it.
Appreciate that. All right, I'll get a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all.
Marcia, this connection under here is poor, and I just